curricular and co-curricular activities. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nextly, I welcome our respected chief guest and our resource person of today's webinar, Mr. Varun Sridharan, sir, who is the founder of Green Environment Innovation and Marketing India Private Limited to this function. We, with all our hearts, we welcome you, sir, for this function.
Thank you, sir.
Now I welcome all our respected head of engineering departments, our beloved faculty, our staff, and all our dear students to this webinar. And now I firmly hope and I believe that this webinar will be a fruitful and a beneficial one to all the participants of this program. I welcome you all once again for this webinar. May God Almighty bless all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Devi V, Principal, Royal College of Engineering and Technology, to address the online gathering.
Thank you. A warm good morning to you all. Distinguished speaker of the day, Sri Varun Sridharan, respected head of the departments, dear faculty members, my dear students, and the brilliant coordinators of the webinar, Sri Muthukumaran and Sri Krishna Kumar. I'm so happy that I am a part of this platform because all of us are aware about the importance of water in our life. We are using water in plenty, but we are not at all thinking about our future generations while we are using water. So this is something to be preserved for our future generations that we should be aware. And of course, we have to preserve water, air, and of course our earth for our future generations. So that a self-exploration is needed on this matter, as well as we should be aware of how to manage these resources, especially water. So today we are with us, Sri Varun Sridhar, a successful entrepreneur who is very keen in nature conservation and protection of nature. And we are so happy that he is from Kerala. So with much happiness and I'm so proud to invite you, sir, to this function where I'm sure that you will be inspiring the society to how to conserve or how to protect, and especially our environmental forum members will be getting inspired on protecting our environment. So we are eagerly waiting to hear from you. And I take this opportunity to congratulate the coordinators of the program because this is a very relevant and timely needed program. So I request all my students and all my faculty members to attend this program and be with Mr. Varun Sridhar for this 1 hour. Definitely you will be get inspired, and also I can hear that all of you are towards protecting our nature and environment. So let us have a very healthy and safe environment. So sir, I welcome you to this program. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The chief speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Varun Sridharan, is the founder and technical director of Green Environment Innovation and Marketing India, a startup green company headquartered at Chennai and focused towards providing smart technologies for water and wastewater management. Mr. Varun graduated in civil engineering from Hindustan College, Chennai, and joined IIT Madras as a project associate. He also worked in an international environment engineering consulting company in UAE as a process engineer. In 2012, He started Green Environment India with a team of experts in water and wastewater management industry. They are currently providing real-time monitoring services for residential, commercial, and industrial buildings in India and abroad. It would be highly knowledgeable to hear about his experiences in this field. I gladly invite Mr. Varun Sridharan for his session. Sir, the session is all yours.
Thank you, madam. First of all, I think virtual world, it's very difficult to, get some response. So I would like this to be more of a place where people can interact. So is it somewhere where people would share questions, or how does, the students would, because just to understand the kind of crowd who's, or the team who's looking at this. These are final year students, or?
Hello.
Hello?
There are students from all students.
All departments, it's only all civil or all departments?
All departments, sir. All department.
Okay, fine. All right, sure. First of all, thank you for this introduction. I'm really happy to be here. And another thing, being a Malayali talking to a college in Kerala, I feel very happy. Normally, there is, they have interacted with students there in Kerala, but I think we are in the God's own country, and we should be talking more about environment and everything outside is what I feel. And most of these big IITs and other universities, I see a lot of Malayalis doing their MTech and PhDs in the subject. So I think we need more people to come out and work in this space. So I have a very brief presentation. So a presentation on maybe a little bit of water and environment. What does it really mean, and what we have understood about it, and then how do we try to? It's a big problem to solve. So what are the ways in which we as a small company were trying to solve, as well as how maybe the future engineers, you could take up some of these points to go ahead with your future. So I will share the screen. Okay, 1 second. I think before I go into that, I'll just give a quick background. So is my screen visible? Is the screen visible?
Visible
Yes.
only. Visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so my background is I'm a civil engineer. I finished my engineering and from Hindustan College in Chennai. So while I was in the college, I was kind of finding that civil engineering is an excellent field, but for me something was, and I wanted to do something very different from what was being done in the normal college. No offense to any department, but structures were something which I really did not get it, but I want to do something different. So fortunately, after the college, when I completed, it was this global recession and all that. So there was very limited opportunity. Construction industry was down, and all these problems in 2008-9. So at that time, I always used to look for mentors while in college, and I was fortunate to have mentors at IIT Madras. And at that time, this was one of the projects which came into IIT Madras, where the government of India had asked IIT Madras to come up with a guidelines document for wastewater management. So how do you manage wastewater in a hospital? How do you manage wastewater in an apartment? How do you do it in a maybe a college, a university? So this was something which at that time, 2008-9 and all, India was kind of expanding, but we had no clue or no guidelines at that point. So my initial experience after doing civil engineering was to work in this particular team, where we had come up with a guidelines document for Ministry of Urban Development. So it was published in 2012, and it is currently available at the Central Public Health and Environmental Engineering Organization. So this is a particular project where we had to go to different cities, understand the pollution level of a city, and then come up with what is the kind of technology that can be used. Today there are so many technologies that we talk about: German technology, There are, US technology, but, we don't talk about Indian technologies that has been there. So this particular document, we were trying to document what are the real designs and technologies that are available for designing best wastewater treatment plants for a condition like a hotel or a hospital or a IT park or whichever kind of building it is. So this was my initial experience. This is how I got into environmental engineering. So for me, I don't hold any PhDs or masters other than civil engineering. So I would be talking more about in a layman's language on how to solve this problem or how we look at solving this problem. So now I'll go into my presentation. So is the slide now visible?
Yes, of course, it's visible.
Okay. So I think I was asked for a topic, so I thought it's a very broad topic. So let me try to bring it as a broad topic and try to go deeper into it. So environmental and water management is the okay. 1 second. 1 second. So background, you can hear some music. So here in Tamil Nadu, Chennai, right now there is a waste management company who come to collect waste by putting a song so loud. So there will be some sound from my side for some time. Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah. So yeah. So I think what is environment and water management? So let me start by what we think that is and how does that really span out. So basically, we feel water management, is there's a natural water management that happens. There's an economic water management that happens, and there's a governance part of it. So there are three things that is there. Natural water management is, like Professor John who had mentioned in the beginning. The environment provides the way in which the water has been managed. So this has been happening for years. And there's a second one, which is the economic way of water management, which is, so tomorrow, I don't know, there's a place near Perumbavoor where there are a lot of plywood factories. Okay, see, all these plywood factories have been set up in an area where there's a requirement for water for economic activities. So I visited this place and I saw that about 300 plywood industries are there. And these industries require every day so much of water. So for this economic activity, you need X quantity of water. So this has to be, there should be enough water to use the same way in every industrial activity or commercial activity, there is an economic requirement and there is a need for water management there. The third one is governance. So for every government, water is a very important subject. So this water, if you don't provide enough, there's a challenge. And if you have enough and you don't manage enough, that is also a problem. You would always hear about Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, both governments trying to fight for the Kaveri water and the quantity and all that being discussed. So, I think water management is very complex and it is challenging, but there are simply three things that where water is really required. In economic, agriculture also comes into play. But there's a complex relationship between human and water environment. So in the next slide, I have a short video that explains what is that relationship. And that relationship is indeed oxygen. There's oxygen that we as human need, and there is oxygen that water also requires to sustain. So that is called dissolved oxygen. So this is a very, I wouldn't say short video, it's a 5 minutes video explaining about dissolved oxygen. If you have any issues with the
Excuse me, sir. Can you please share the screen once again? We're not seeing the presentation.
Sir, please unmute.
Sir.
Please unmute, sir.
Oh my God, the screen was not visible.
No, sir. No, sir.
My God, I kept on talking. Now,
Yes,
Yes, sir,
screen
it is
was
okay.
visible, but
yes.
that video you mentioned, no, that
Yeah.
we couldn't.
Okay, you're not able to see the video, is it? Okay. Is it? You can see now, ma'am,
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
sir. Yes, sir.
yes.
Fine.
along with the audio, right? No, okay.
Imagine a world where we weren't surrounded by air. Without the oxygen in the air that we breathe, we wouldn't survive very long. But what about animals underwater? They need oxygen too. Where do they get it? The answer is from the water, because water actually also contains dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen is just what it sounds like. It's oxygen that's dissolved in water. What does it mean for something to dissolve? If you've ever mixed sugar and water, you've noticed that the sugar seems to disappear. But what really happens is that the molecules of water mix with and surround the sugar molecules, breaking up the large sugar granules to make a sugar-water mixture. More specifically, since the parts of the mixture are spread out equally and evenly everywhere, we can call this mixture a solution. So when we say that something dissolves, it just means that it goes into an evenly distributed mixture called a solution. Now, like those sugar molecules, oxygen molecules also mix evenly with water molecules to form a solution. In other words, oxygen dissolves in water. But how does the oxygen get there in the first place? Well, there are two main ways that oxygen can enter a body of water, like the ocean or a lake. One way is from the atmosphere, or the air around us. Oxygen makes up about a fifth of the atmosphere, and these oxygen molecules are constantly bumping into and entering water. Even more oxygen enters water through photosynthesis. You probably know photosynthesis mainly as the way that plants around us feed themselves. But there's actually a whole slew of other photosynthetic living things aside from plants. From tiny green bacteria called cyanobacteria to little phytoplankton with crazy names like dinoflagellate and even crazier bodies. All these creatures can produce food through photosynthesis. But in doing so, they actually also produce oxygen, which then dissolves in the water. What happens to this dissolved oxygen? Remember that like us other living things, the animals, plants, phytoplankton, and bacteria living underwater also take up oxygen to live. Furthermore, oxygen molecules are continually shuttling back and forth between the atmosphere and the water. But note that there's always at least some amount of oxygen that stays dissolved, and this amount depends on water conditions like the saltiness and temperature of water, and how much dissolved oxygen there is compared to the oxygen levels in the air. Now, why does the amount of oxygen already dissolved in the water and the surrounding air matter? Well, it's the same principle as walking into a crowded room from an empty hallway. You don't want to go in, and the people inside are trying to get out. In the same way, if there's more oxygen in the water than in the surrounding air, then the oxygen moves to the roomier atmosphere. Or if there's more oxygen in the air, then the oxygen moves to the water. The principle is the same for the saltiness of water. If you've ever tasted seawater, you know how salty it is, and that's because there's salt dissolved in seawater. Well, those salts are also taking up space in the water. You can imagine that as adding even more people to your crowded room, and the more people there are, the less room there is for you. So the saltier it is, the less space there is for dissolved oxygen. What about temperature? Well, when things heat up, they start moving around. Imagine yourself in a crowded room again. As everyone starts jostling around, it's a lot easier to move out of the room. Again, it's the same for dissolved oxygen. The oxygen molecules warm up and they start vibrating, making it easier for them to escape the water. So let's sum that up. Dissolved oxygen enters water from the atmosphere from photosynthesis, and then gets taken up by living things or exits into the atmosphere depending on water temperature, saltiness, and the amount of already dissolved oxygen. Now you're probably thinking, who cares what the amount of dissolved oxygen is? Well, remember that living things need oxygen to live, and the more oxygen there is, the more animals can live there. So scientists measure dissolved oxygen to find out how healthy a body of water like a lake or a river is. But animals also adapt to the amount of dissolved oxygen. Fish like salmon need a lot of oxygen, so they can only live in colder places. But fish like catfish can live in warmer waters because they need less oxygen. If you've ever wondered why the kinds of fish are different in different places, this is one reason why. Unfortunately, even these fish die off at very low oxygen levels, and humans have been decreasing freshwater oxygen levels in a process called eutrophication. Eutrophication is a big word that just means adding a lot of nutrients good for growing, like nitrogen and phosphorus, to a lake or a river, usually by pollution. That causes a lot of plants and cyanobacteria to bloom. Aren't plants good though? Don't they produce dissolved oxygen? Well, yes, but when they die, they sink to the bottom of the lake and decay there. And this decay uses up all the oxygen in the lake. With no oxygen to breathe, the fish and other animals die and the lake becomes unhealthy. So throw your trash properly and recycle. Together we can preserve systems.
Yeah. I hope you were able to see the complete video. So I think here, this is where I'm going back to the first point where, we discussed about natural, economic, and governance. So the natural way of, water being purified or water being available for us has been through the dissolved oxygen that is there in the water. So today, if we actually go check water in Periyar River for dissolved oxygen, we'll know that what is the health of that particular, water. So dissolved oxygen plays a very important role for water, and for humans, of course, we need oxygen, right? So this is a very important thing, and because of economic activities and governance challenges, there is so many issues that we are finding with water management and natural processes, where we say drought and all these issues are there. That's a cycle. It's been happening for years. There'll be a drought, and then again there'll be excess of rain. So how do you manage this water is also very, very important. So I hope the video was helpful. It's an MIT video. You can always look at it anytime on the internet or this one. So next I'll share another 1-minute video on what we are trying to do here as a startup that has been in the space. This video, if you have any issues with the video, please do let me know.
Are there enough freshwater sources to meet our demand? Is the water around us clean and safe? Building owners and businesses today are worried about water cost and its security. Can we manage our wastewater without polluting the environment? Is there a solution? Yes, we are a team of water experts in Greenvironment, incubated at IIT Madras. We help you to improve the water efficiency by constantly providing real-time information from the water and wastewater treatment plants while saving cost. Our instrument with smart sensors and data logger are connected within a network for fresh and recycled water treatment plants. Data on all key parameters are communicated to our analytics platform for remote monitoring. Now, gain actionable insights and make quick and informed decisions while saving water and money. The saving is not on paper anymore. We have proved savings of 55% on water footprint, 30% on water spend, possible with our technology. Wish to save money and water now? We are at www.greenvironmentindia.com.
So that's a brief introduction about my company. So we started this company in 2012 after this, the earlier I shared the Government of India's guidelines document. So we realized that, there is need for somebody to go in as a team to understand these problems and how do you solve problems related to water management in buildings and businesses. So that's how we started. So next I will go. So I don't know whether this could be more interactive, but I wish to maybe get some feedback from your side as well on this. So water management in a city or a community or a building. So this has been something that we are trying to understand, solve this problem using technology. So that's what we as a startup from this ecosystem we've been trying to do. But so for everything there is a management process. So for water management also there's a process that we have seen this documented across the world. So I would like to just explain that process. So first thing is the source. So if Thrissur evidana vellam varunathu, I mean that is something which we all should be knowing it. I'm sure most of the civil engineers should know or people who are interested in water management would know the sources. So, Professor or Madam, can I know what are the sources that we have for Thrissur?
Sir, Peachy, sir, Peachy.
Peachy. So Peachy will cover the entire city's requirement, right? Will that cover the entire city?
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So that is the requirement for the city of Thrissur. Thrissur. And there is this source. So this source of water that comes in, that has to go through a treatment. So today, because that every source would have different types of water quality for it, that goes through a basic treatment, or it could be, I think, Kudumbashree has been doing a lot of work in chlorinating the water. Another background I would like to share is in 2010, I was part of a team from IIT Madras where we had done water sampling for the UNICEF. We did a project where in Wayanad, Calicut, and all these places, and on south of Kerala also, we collected samples from every house in a ward, 75 samples per house, and we also measured, that is the well water and the distance from the well water to the septic tank. So this was a data that we had created through IIT Madras, and we had submitted a report saying that the source of water, which is a well for a particular house, and the distance from that to the septic tank, if it is less than 15 meters, there is a chance for the microbial growth in drinking water. So that was one of the reports that has resulted in Kudumbashree providing the regular chlorination in the state of Kerala. So anyways, here we have Peachy as a source of water, and then we have treatment that is happening. I'm sure there is some water treatment plant in the city managed by Kerala Water Authority, and that is being supplying the water into the city for consumption. So there is a daily consumption for a city. See, the same thing that I'm talking about in a city is applicable for a small community. It is applicable for a building. Or even to an individual house. So I'm just trying to explain the process here. So once the treatment happens, and we have done so much of treatment, now there is a consumption that happens for a city. So there will be overhead tanks which would be supplying water to different houses. Kerala Water Authority would have that into supplying into all these houses. So that is where the consumption part happens. We know that consumption is something which in Kerala, we do have multiple sources in our houses. Like in my house, I have 2 wells, and then we have one bore well. So I think we have multiple sources, and of course, government also supplies water to our houses. So this is, we are very lucky compared to other cities or other states in the country. So consumption of the water, as per all the designs that we do, it is about 135 liters per person per day. Is what is been designed for if a city has so much of population, and that is the amount of water that we need for consumption. Today, from 135 in cities, it has been told we need 150 liters of water per day per person. So that's part of the consumption. And then once consumption happens, then the next stage is recycle. So you would have seen the video of dissolved oxygen that, recycle is very, very important. Recycle is for water, that is the wastewater, as well as fresh, this one, wastewater, as well as the solid waste that we do, because all these things are ending up into lakes and all these water bodies, which is polluting it. So once consumption happens, say if you take a building, maybe a Lulu mall we can take, because it's a very common place for all of us, hopefully. So a Lulu mall would have source water. I understand Lulu gets a lot of water from tankers, and they have a water treatment plant in the building to treat it, and then that is consumed in the building by the people who are visiting there in the mall. And then that water that has been consumed becomes wastewater, and that goes into a recycling plant. So Lulu Mall or any other, I'm not just any other building, you cannot discharge the water into the nearby lakes. But you can see eutrophication. I hope most of you would have seen from the metro station all the eutrophication and whatever that we are talking about happening right in that drain next to Lulu Mall. So these are all areas where recycling is very, very important. So once recycling is done, the next part is reuse. So how much water can you reuse within the city? How much water can be reused within a building, and how much water can be reused, for a community? So this is basically the management process that has been documented on a city or a community or a building wise for managing water. So this is, I would say, an ideal situation. So if there is no management process happening, so what happens? So I think first problem is if there is no source, I think Peachy goes down with the, the water that is there. I think we did have that problem after the floods, that, the water levels were low, a lot of issues with the quality of water. So drought is basically the next problem that we face. And if there is no treatment happening, say Kudumbashree is not coming and putting up all the chlorination solutions in household level, or if we're not having some kind of a solution on that, I'm sure it results in health issues. We can find a lot. I think most of these diseases that are being built, are there, are due to water not being, well treated. So that is creating health issues. And then, of course, consumption scarcity. We run around for getting water. We keep. I'm sure you would have seen some photographs of South Africa, but more than South Africa and India itself. Chennai and all these places. Before 2019, 18, and all, it was very difficult to get 1 can of water and sustain for a family 1 or 2 cans of water. So that creates scarcity. So when there's no management process. So I think most of us in the last 10, 15 years, we have been hearing about droughts. We have been hearing about health issues. We've been hearing about scarcity. And I think the fourth thing is pollution. So if you don't recycle, there is pollution. I was referring to the plywood industries is because I was actually had a project where I represented the Kerala Pollution Control Board and was there to study the kind of pollution that is happening into the Periyar River due to the plywood industries that are set up in that Vengola and those areas. So when we did that, we realized that there's too much of water consumption because every small industry unit has about 50 to 60 people, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that the maximum migrant workers also live in that particular area. And they are not provided proper sanitation, facilities, because of which, every day all the wastewater that they create is actually dumped into these beautiful river like Periyar. So this leads to pollution, and this is not only happening there; it's happening across the state, across countries. This is where the economic activity is driving towards pollution, and the government also has to at least direct it. So that's where all pollution control boards and people are trying to solve problems in the space. Of course, if you don't reuse the water, we are 100% going into scarcity, is because a city like Chennai, when we were evaluating the way things have changed. This is before COVID. We used to have at least 30 to 45 days of rain in a year. That is 365 days. It was 30 to 45 days. So in 2017, 18 and all, the maximum number of days it rained was like 20 days or 15 days in the entire year. So you can imagine the quantity of water that is not there to supply by the government or for us to use, because bore wells will go dry. So there is a real scarcity that is created. So the best way to manage your water requirement is to reuse water. And Chennai is also a city where we do have desalination plants, like it is there in Middle East, and but desalination plant also is spoiling a lot of environmental thing, because the high salt content. You would have seen the video of dissolved oxygen again, in which it talks about high salt content is also a problem for different fish and other aquatic life to live. So these desalination plants, after doing all the cleaning of the salt in the water, they throw back highly concentrated salt with high salinity back into the ocean, into the sea. So this creates a lot of problem. There are a lot of activists who are against this as well. So the point here is that management of water is very important, and there is a relationship between human beings and water. So that's oxygen. So how do we solve it is what we were trying to, because theoretically we can talk so many things. We can talk about, and then, maybe get into a detailed study or do a PhD on the subject. But as far as I'm concerned, we need to have some real solid ways to resolve these problems. And that's been our motivation as a company to work in this space. So I think first way is we need more smart people. We need more people in this space. Unfortunately, what has happened in this sector is that there are very few companies which are very, very big, but they are also not having consistent people. And then we were always looking at more of infrastructure development than looking at environmental management. So today, I think things have changed. There are more people who are interested in the subject. I'm sure many of the civil engineering students who pass out today want to take up an environmental engineering master's or learn or work in that space, which is a very good change that we have seen in the last 5 years. And of course, this is a vast subject, so you have to specialize in something. So there are more people that is required, and then there's need for smart technology, because today, if you see most of the problems on a city level, most of the the pressing issues of economic and governance related has been solved only by smarter technologies, where you get enough data and you try to solve the problem. So I think this is a very important factor. Like I'll give you an example now. We all are like excited about electric vehicles. So before that, it was difficulty to move around in a city. So today, metros are very much something which has helped in reducing that dependency. And the next thing is, if you see, there are app-based cabs, right? You have Ola and Uber and all these come. So at the end of the day, and Ola and Uber and all are able to provide easy accessibility to places, and they're able to make sure that actually, if I had a chance to have attended some sessions with Ola team. So they basically understand exactly how a city's road should be built, so that from a point A to point B, you can go in 20 minutes. If your road is like this, of this size, and this is the kind of side roads that would come in. So basically, that's a company which is a pure technology company with just a mobile app, got all the cars listed into it. And today they're able to tell a government or any city that is looking to become smart that what is the minimum size of the road that you need, and what could be the number of signals that you need, where you can reduce the congestion that you need within the city. So that's the amount of data that they have generated. So today they do work with smart cities and other people to design the cities better for their roads and the traffic management in the city. So same way in environmental management also, there is need for building technologies and trying to make sure that there is enough ways of handling this. So I hope this slide, and I'll be really happy if a couple of your students could let me know or maybe write to me on their understanding of management processes that happens in a community level or a building level. Tell me what is the source, treatment, consumption, and recycling pattern in terms of quantity. Because another very important thing is that today a Lulu mall would require about I would say 1,000 kiloliters of water in a day. And they treat that water. There is consumption of this 1,000 liters. So every day, this building would actually produce about 800 kiloliters. That is about 8 lakh liters of wastewater, which has to be treated and again reused in the building. So you can imagine the complexity that a building would have. I'm talking about just one building, which is there. And then, so this water cannot be discharged into nearby lakes, because all the lakes will get whatever I showed in terms of dissolved oxygen problems because of the waste that we dump. So I think this is an area where I think more people need to be trained or understood about the subject. So next, I'll go to much more details of what we are doing as a company in this space. So what we are saying is, we need to have IoT. IoT is Internet of Things, and how do we use Internet of Things to understand the data from an existing infrastructure and help such buildings to operate the plant effectively. So today, a mall requires 8 lakh liters of water to be treated. So how do we do it? I mean, do we have the right process? Does that work properly in terms of are we putting the right amount of chlorine into the water? So these are the things that we are trying to understand using this IoT setup. So what we do is, in any wastewater treatment plant, on a community building or a city level, we install these online monitoring system with a set of sensors. And these sensors basically are connected to a logging device that communicates to the cloud server. And from here, it goes into a dashboard, and where we do a lot of analysis and understand how these plants work. So this is what my company has been doing for the last 5 to 6 years. And this is what we think is one of the areas where future is there. So we create a lot of data. Just a quick background. I'm sure most of you, once you finish, you look for a job, or you can also become an entrepreneur. So I think today in our country, there are opportunities, and Kerala Startup Mission, I think, is very close to where your college is. And all these places are promoting entrepreneurs. So, I had an idea in 2012-13. I kept on talking to people, mentors and all that. So 2012-15, I had, got an opportunity to build a hardware. So I'm a civil engineer, but electronics was built with a team. So as an entrepreneur, you can get more people who are, know the subject around you and build and solve a problem. So in 2015, we built this under the Make in India scheme and all that of this current opportunity. This is connected to any state and any incubator that is there. I was fortunate to be part of the IIT Madras Environmental Engineering platform, where we developed this product. So what you see here is a logger where you can connect a dissolved oxygen sensor, you can connect a pH sensor, you can connect any sensor. And we wanted to develop this completely in India as an Indian product. And we developed this, and this has a SIM card here. This communicates the data into the cloud, and we get to see that on a mobile app or a thing. And then when we were ready with this, there was this major problem that was happening in the city of Bangalore, where they were looking, all the lakes were burning because of excess of, discharge of wastewater into the lakes. I don't know. I hope you guys remember that, there were so many articles and this thing where, like how it comes out of our washing machines, a lot of foam and all that coming out from the lakes and rivers. So we were selected as one of the companies to solve the problem along with the government. So we had been there analyzing. So in the video, you saw that, scientists have to put dissolved oxygen sensor and find out what is the problem. So we were the company that were given the opportunity to work with the government to find out what is the actual problem, why this, so much of, foam is coming, and why these lakes are burning. So to tell you the truth, I think the lifestyle of human beings have changed. Today, another strange thing that we saw was, we especially in the high-end residential communities and all in Bangalore and Whitefield area, every house might have only 2 or 3 people living in, but they might have 2-3 pets. And for the pet, they buy all the I would say expensive imported things to wash them up and all that, and car washes. So in all these things we use highly sophisticated like detergents and all that stuff, which is what is actually going into these drains. So most of these biological treatment plants that is installed in these places are failing because of such kind of high level of chemical into the wastewater. So this actually makes that, you might find the water is quite clean, but it has high level of the detergent and such kind of waste which is still in the water, and that has been discharged into the lakes. So this, when reacted with different types of temperature, there is potential for it to have growth of, or react with thing to create methane. So these were the kind of reasons which was understood why these problems were happening. So it's very important that we realize that these water bodies are already polluted. The only way is to stop the pollution first, and then start looking at what is the next way of action to restore it. Not that we still say that, oh yeah, pollution is there, it's not there. It's actually polluted. So now we need to solve the problem. So we have right now, so with our technology, there are many sewage treatment plants that is there in Bangalore, which are connected. We are making sure there is enough data created, how much quantity of water is being discharged into these lakes, and then what is the way in which this water is managed. So data is the first stage. Second stage is you've got to find a solution. So there are better treatment technologies now has been built to dispose this water into these lakes. So this was a project where it was again, you had a technology. I will not call we are the only smart people, but there are a lot of other companies also doing this work. And then the smart technologies got deployed from 2017-18 into these cities. And what we saw is that more and more of these, buildings started understanding the problem, and they were trying to solve it. Because there is another very big gap of understanding. What we have found is that people think that groundwater is separate and surface water is separate. But there is a relation between a groundwater and surface water, because the groundwater, so if your surface water is polluted, that is what is going to come through the aquifer into your wells, and that's what you're going to drink. So, but in our research and all that, we see a lot of people saying, I'll work on groundwater alone. But where do you get the source for groundwater? It's the nearby surface water. So in a place like Bangalore, there is no sea around, there is no other source of water. For them, groundwater and surface water is the only way to sustain the entire city. So I think these are all things that people have to realize, and data plays a very important role in this. Then recently, this is in 2020, we have started working with the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation. This is called the Jal Jeevan Mission, National Jal Jeevan Mission. So we are one of the startups that is working in this space. So here also government told startups like us that you have to develop a solution specific to India, because all the imported sensors and all that doesn't work in the country. So we were given initially some support by the government to develop a prototype, and then we developed a final product. And they also gave us 25 villages to be installed in doing this. So I have some videos on this. So this is also a kind of a village level water management scheme that has come up. This is a very short video again. This is a village in Karnataka, where in 3 days we had to make the entire village digital with the water supply. So this is similar to the Kerala Water Authority kind of tanks that we have. So we install flow, quality, and all these sensors into these pipelines. And that is what supplies to the village. And that's the technology device. And then we basically are communicating this data on real time to the water authorities and end users. So they know that exactly how much water is going into a village. So also once we do that, they also wanted that every house, Har Ghar Jal is the scheme that has come up now, where every house they'll have to measure how much water is going. So this is how we install these online monitoring systems in different houses. It's completely solar powered. And this is the last house in the village. This is a flow meter and a pressure transmitter. So there should not be leakages in the water, and there is also need to measure how much quantity of water has gone even to the last house in a particular village. So this is what is the scheme that is now being installed. So we have installed it across different villages right now. So we have also installed in Ladakh about two months back. So what we are seeing is water management is a priority, and using technology we can solve this problem. And that is my presentation. If you have any questions, please do ask me. I'm sorry, I took a lot of time. It's already 11:50. Okay. Maybe I will. If my screen is still visible, hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now I've just explained about that particular scheme. So there is something called as Jal Jeevan Mission, Har Ghar Jal. So IoT-based smart water supply. So currently there are about 14 villages being added to it. So all these villages will be added, and you can see in the Indian map in about 650,000 villages. This particular data will be live in the coming 2 years. So that is the plan. So you can see that, in this is in Rajasthan, source is groundwater, how much is the liters per day provided, LPCD provided into that particular village. So these are all, so when you click onto this, you can see individually how much, water has been provided. So in villages, they put a benchmark of minimum 55 liters to be provided to an household. So this is the way the data is showcased in the Jal Jeevan Ministry. So we are actually a company we are also sending about data into this server, where any public or any person can look at it. I'm sure all these young engineers should look at this. So this is the future of water management that's happening in this country. So I hope this will help. I can maybe share the details with Muthukumaran sir or anybody on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing with us your valuable thoughts and experiences.
Sure.
If anybody has any queries, I think you can ask now.
Students,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, you have shared the importance of using the new technologies developed for developing a sustainable uh, and preserving our nature, like water and this waste management, everything. So all civil engineers should be aware that I am repeating that, because civil engineers they should use this new technologies like IoT, artificial intelligence, everything that is coming up for the sustainable environment, for developing the sustainable environment, especially for preserving this water like things and all. Is it like that the message that our students should conceive is use of new technologies for the development of our environment and protecting our environment? Is it like that, sir?
Oh, yes, ma'am, very much. I mean, I think the future is there. I mean, where of course, we need to have much clarity of other things as well in the subject of civil engineering, but we do need need to understand this new technologies and see again. This is not, as a civil engineer, we are not going, but we can design the best infrastructure. We can design the best details if you have enough data. So that's where we should look at it as on a civil engineer's point of view.
Okay. So data collection is very important. That all.
Yes, ma'am. I think if you send your team with dissolved oxygen sensors into the nearby lakes, that will give a lot of data. And if local authorities can do something on that, is all. I mean, I'm sure so many other issues.
Usually our civil engineering projects during that project time, they used to tell us we need more data like that. We used to hear. So really, the importance of data is very clear through your session. Very informative, sir. Very informative, and creating an enthusiasm to study more about our water management and our environment. Really, solid waste management. So our students, if they need more support, I hope they can approach you very well, I think. Isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we are also kind of there's a lot of other projects also happening. I think people are interested. They can surely write to us, and I mean, of course, we will try to do our best in supporting people. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So if you have any specific questions, or do let me know on that. Or
So I have one query. That is, one of the main issues that we see in Kerala is the loss of water due to improper management. The pipelines are broken, and for days and all, it is kept like that only. So, is there any way that these technologies can be used to manage such issues?
yes, ma'am. I mean, the last project that I was referring to was basically to know. So there are two things that we do in that. One is we understand the water quality. We also understand the pressure and the flow in the pipeline. So when the pressure, there is a problem. So now when we start monitoring a particular pipeline for the pressure and flow together, if there are any leakages, that can alert the local engineer or an authority to take an action. So this is part of the scheme where if there are leakages, excess of usage, we have to have ways in which that has to be controlled. So once you have data, you know that if I'm in my house, I'm consuming say 500 liters per day, and where I'm actually supposed to consume only 135 liters. That's a problem, right? So it could be because of leakages. Maybe I as a person, I won't be able to consume so much of water, but there could be leakages. So these are all ways in which data can be used, can be alerted to an user. And another big issue is this cost of water. If I have so much of water, if I have to buy, the cost is also there. So people will be able to solve this problem faster if they have data. So these technologies are all really going to help in leak detection. Yes, I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Okay.
There's a lot of effort all the governments and all of them are doing on this. And there is a $50 billion fund that is there for Jal Jeevan mission to be used by all the states in the country. So I'm sure it requires more water resource engineers and all to do this. So I hope it will happen. Okay. I thought of finishing.
I hope there are no more queries.
Okay. Yeah. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity, one and all.
I invite Mr. Krishna Kumar, Head of Department, Electronics and Communication Engineering, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you very much. Respected Principal, Guest of Honor, Varun Sridharan Sir, Jacob John Sir, HOD ASH Department, and Anjana Miss, she hosted this wonderful session. And my dear HODs, staffs, and students. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude towards Varun Sridharan Sir for enlightening us with words of wisdom. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful and informative talk. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank Principal Dr. Devi ma'am and our respected CEO VP Salim sir for giving all sorts of supports, and I express my sincere thanks to Professor Jacob John sir. He welcomed this session, and Anjana Miss, she hosted this function, and I would like to thank all the other HODs, staff, and students, and my dear students. Thank you, one and all. Thank you very much.